Posada, slow roller right side. Beckett picks it up, tags Posada, and the Florida Marlins are world champions.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Oh, how far we have fallen. We are all ready to get hurt again. Here we are. Welcome to episode number 1 of the Battered Marlins Fans podcast. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Granada. Alongside me, we got Callie. Ooh, you know what? I'd never pronounced your last name before.
Urudia.
And my man Brenton over here. Like I said, episode number 1, bringing some new Marlins flavor to the Battered Fans media network. How you guys doing? Let me start with you. How you doing, Callie?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really excited that we get to do this. Been looking for a platform to talk Marlins for a while, and there's not a lot of channels for me to go through in that regard. So this is really exciting. I'm really pumped to talk some fish baseball with you guys.
What's going on, Brenton?
Nothing much, man. Glad to be coming in off of that taking 2 from the Twins there. Because if we were coming in losing that series, this was going to be a depressing ass start to this podcast.
Well, let me tell you something. I remember I thought when we spoke and we said, let's get a Marlins podcast going. I mean, when you get on there aren't many out there. I listened to some other team podcasts from other baseball teams, and they have a slew of content. The Marlins, I guess, understandably, the fan base is a little smaller. There isn't that many. So I've said, let's try this out. Let's see what we can get going here, because I love to talk baseball and love to talk Marlins. And like you said, I was like, I wish we kind of would have started before the season started, because going off that first series loss to the Mets, I was like, oh, no, this is going to be a rough first episode. But we picked it up against the Twins.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so I'm feeling a little better. So let's get it started. So week 1 is done. We've gotten to see this team. We went through the rotation once. We got Sandy and we got Luzorda twice now. But we got more or less of an assessment, right? 1 week in, 2 series in. What are you guys thinking as far as the difference between last year's team and this year's team thus far? I guess I'll start with you, Brandon. What are you thinking so far as the differences?
Well, so it's hard to take any conclusions out of the Mets series for me, because I think the bats were just coming out slow. But when you look at what the goal was for the offseason, and it was to add, people who can get on base, who can hit for contact, so that they can set up guys like Jazz and I think the team did a great job in that aspect. We'll talk about him coming up. Arise is like, ooh, he's gonna be one of my favorites. I can already tell.
Right. He's as good as advertised.
Yeah, and I think in the Twin series we saw just how effective that plan has been, and I think hitting for contact, especially in that huge Lone Depot Park, is going to be a major plus for this team, and is what it's going to make this season more exciting than what we've had in previous years.
What about you, Callie?
Well, in terms of the biggest differences from last year to this year, I think our bullpen's a lot deeper. I think the starting rotation has always kind of been there. Now we're seeing kind of the emergence of Edwin Cabrera, and we're going to see what he can produce. And he had a bit of a shaky first start, but aside from that, a lot of high promise there. We can see if Trevor Rogers can kind of bounce back to the Trevor Rogers we saw
From his rookie year.
From his rookie year, absolutely. And so the starting rotation I'm not worried about outside of Johnny Cueto. We got to see how long he's going to be out for. I didn't love the signing just because he's
47 years old.
Yeah, and he's a guy that used to make a lot of guys miss. And if you look at the last couple of years, his whiff rate has slowly dropped, which is, I know some people aren't huge in the advanced analytics and the advanced stats, but that's something really important to look at. And he was getting hit hard against a very average Twins lineup. Yeah, they're undefeated, but not a lot of super high contact guys outside of Correa and Lanark and stuff like that. But and then our bullpen too, adding guys like AJ Puck, who's going to be like a bona fide closer for us, who's
for sure
can come in and dominate, big lanky guy, kind of that Chris Sale, 3/4 arm slot, but everything's going to move, everything's going to come in high 90s. He's going to be able to spot it. He kind of pitched himself into a save, which is great. And then we have guys like Matt Barnes that'll be like our setup closer guy. JT Chaguar, and then we're going to see guys like Nardi and Floro and stuff like that have already impressed. And then the additions to the lineup, to have like a real spark plug, like a real true leadoff guy in Luis Ariz, AL batting title last year, AL All-Star. The fact that he was able to come in and kind of push Jazz to the outfield, which actually has presented a whole different host of issues that we weren't anticipating. But we've really solidified our infield with guys like Ariz, with Segura, he's been struggling with the bat, but he's very, very good with the glove. Probably he saved us a couple runs in the last game of the Twin Series. Yeah, man.
He bobbled a beautiful play that he had in the outfield, though.
Segura?
No. I'm thinking of who was it that bobbled that ball in the outfield? It'll come to me. I'm sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
It's okay. But yeah, we've solidified defensively. I think we're going to be very, very good. I think we're going to be much better than last year, especially in the infield. From last year, like Jazz isn't like an all-star. He's not going to be a Gold Glove guy in any position he plays, unfortunately. But he's a guy that we have out there because he's a bat. He's an athletic guy that we can kind of plug anywhere. Where Miggy was a bit of a liability until we traded him. And then we have guys like Birdie that we were just kind of plugging in holes. Garrett Cooper's Gold Glove year so far at first base, couple diving plays. He's really a force. He's a brick wall there, which is great, which is what we needed also. So a lot of positives.
Started with the bat too.
Yeah, and Fortes behind the dish. I know Stallings was like our guy last year, but Fortes behind the dish has been just lights out. I think he's claimed the starting catcher spot, except for Stallings, because I know him and Sandy have that repertoire from last year. Yeah, and Stallings caught and called every game that Sandy pitched in a Cy Young year, so that's going to be the battery when
for sure
Sandy pitches.
That's an off day. Now, when you were talking about Cueto and how he had issues with the undefeated at that time Twins, it kind of shows the discrepancy or the distance between the aces on this staff and then the back end, because once Sandy and Luzardo came in, they mowed down the Twins. They finished games in under 2 hours. That's how dominant they were. And Cueto, they took a bat to Cueto. So do you think we don't have the 5 that we need right now?
What I'm curious to see is right now, Max Meyer, who was a first-round pick for us, was it 3 years ago now, came up end of last year, pitched very well. It was kind of like a bullpen guy, like, odd rotation, weekday start type of guy. He's on the 60-day injured list right now. I'm curious to see what happens to rotation if one, Cueto isn't healthy, and two, if Cueto continues to get lit up. Does Max Meyer get plugged back into that starting rotation? We know Braxton Garrett's a guy that's capable of starting games too. He started mostly in the minors. He's a guy in the bullpen right now. It'd be interesting to see if he gets an opportunity to start a game now with Cueto presumably going to be out for at least a start or two. So I think we have guys. I just don't think I know that this club can be a little hesitant to give the young guys a shot right away in terms of giving them the ball in the first inning. But who knows what Skip has up his sleeve too. We need to see his managerial style and how often he turns to our farm.
Yeah, and as a young manager, you would think he probably leans a little bit into the youth, especially because we're not considered to be, contending this year. So it's kind of about seeing what we have to build on because, while I think we can probably contend for that wild card spot, realistically, I think Skip and the organization are probably thinking a couple of years down the road is when we're going to have all the pieces together. Because when you look at like the roster, and the rotation is the perfect example of this. Like there's some pretty young guys in the organization that can take the ball and do some special things with it. And like Callie said, it's just about them getting the opportunity to do so. And, hopefully we continue to bring in some young guys to kind of fill in some spots behind some of the aging players we have, particularly in the infield. But I think it's going to be a fun team. And I think, I don't think we know yet how the rotation is going to work out for the year,
But
we
I
haven't
think
seen it.
4 out of the 5 spots we feel comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Sandy. Everybody loves Sandy. Luzardo looks like he's gonna ball. Rogers,
Mhm.
we're hoping he can bring back what he had his rookie year, and then Cabrera looks solid.
Yeah, and the rotation on day one or series 1 and 2 is not going to be the rotation
No, of
in
course.
August, September. Guys get hurt, guys get traded, things happen, guys get in slumps, guys get called up, guys get called down,
Get injured.
get injured. There's a whole plethora of things that are going to happen. I think it's more important to see like what's trickling down into our bullpen and into the farm system that can provide coverage in need. I think you also have to look at the deadline and see like, okay, are we buyers or sellers? And we might be sellers, but who knows, man?
Don't say that.
The Phillies haven't won a game yet. They are without 2 of the best hitters in baseball for the foreseeable future because Bryce is out till at least the All-Star break. Rhys Hoskins is out for the year. They do not look good right now. I know I read a whole article about JT Realmuto complaining about the time clock and the pitchers can't get their timing down and he doesn't feel like he can control the staff now. Yeah. So who knows how, and that's something that we haven't been able to think about, right? Because this is all so new. It's how are some of these teams going to react to the pitch clock? Like we've seen teams like San Diego really struggle with it at the plate. We've seen teams like the Phillies really struggle with it on the mound. It's going to take some time for teams to develop. And at the end of the day, like the Braves are going to be probably the best team in the East this year.
Yep.
The Mets are going to be good. I hate to say it, but the Mets will, eventually just be the Mets and things are going to happen to the Mets because they're the fucking Mets. But the Nationals are worse than we are. They're terrible.
Yep. By far.
And then the Phillies are without. The Phillies have Trey. The Phillies still have Trey Turner. They still have guys in that lineup that can play. They still have Castellanos. Then they still have Nola on the bump. They still have Real Muto. They have guys. It's just a matter of you're missing 2 of the most important ones. Which you lose 2 bats like that. It's tough to compete. And especially with a team with expectations like that, who knows what can happen. So if July comes around and we're in the thick of it, who knows what we can do, man? Maybe ownership decides like, oh fuck it, we want to spend a little bit, but but again, we're the Marlins.
You brought up the rule changes and Real Muto complaining about them, so I guess that's a good chance to kind of touch on that because I had forgotten that we haven't episode number 1, obviously, right? We haven't talked about the rule changes. Obviously, I think unanimously, outside of Real Muto, most fans are happy with the pitch clock.
Yeah, from an entertainment value and from like just a viewing standpoint, baseball's so much more watchable now. Like, of course, our game, our last game of our series against the Twins was an hour and 58 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
In a game, in sometimes these games take 3.5, 4 hours long, and especially for a club like the Marlins. No one wants to stick around for 4 hours to watch that.
I'll bet you that at the end of the year, the Marlins have the lowest average time per game for 2 reasons. One, because we don't score as well as other teams. So we're 3 and out a lot quicker than other teams. And because of our rotation, it's also going to be mowing batters down also. So I think the Marlins, for the most part, are going to be playing in that 2-hour average games more often than other teams.
Yeah, I think we have the 2 lowest recorded times so far.
If it's not the lowest 2, it's 2 out of the 3. Because I think I heard another team went like 2 hours and a minute or 2. But for sure, 2 out of 3.
I think the Friday game against the Mets, we went like 2 hours.
2 hours and 8 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
That's the one that we were at. Yeah.
Yeah, but we have the honor of being the first game under 2 hours with a new rule change.
Brandon, what you think about the new rules?
I love it. I mean, there's nothing you can't not love it. And I think, while it is a little bit difficult to watch games, because everything's on different streaming services and stuff like that now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see at the end of the year, see viewership numbers go up league wide, just because it's easier to watch a game. I mean, if you think about it, like it's pretty darn close to being like a soccer game time frame as far as how long it's going to be start to finish. And, I think that's they're getting close to the magic number. That 2-hour mark, 2.5 hour mark is probably as much time as you can capture somebody's attention for in sports nowadays. So I love it. And I think it's only going to do good things for the sport.
Yeah, and like especially with baseball being a game that's like on weekdays every night. Like, when I get home, like I work full time, I'm in school. I have a wife, I have a daughter. Like, I want to sit down and watch baseball, but it's tough when I know I have to commit 3.5, 4 hours of this. It's tough to sit down and watch a game every night. But now I'm like, oh man, this game might be 2.5 hours. I can swing that. I can still go to bed at a reasonable hour. And I'm all something that we're not mentioning either. It's like instead of like those 7:10 start times, now we're seeing a lot of
at 6:40
start times,
Yeah,
which is
I
great
love it.
also. And then like
That
the
game that we
4:30
started-
start times too.
That 6:40 start where we went 2 hours and 8 minutes. I was home by 9:45. I went to the stadium. I was home. I live half an hour away from the stadium. I was home by 9:45. That's unheard of, to go to a stadium and be home by 9:45 after a full game. But that's beautiful. I'm excited to go to more games because it's so much quicker paced. Now, with that being said, I do know that there are some adjustments. One of them being runners are running a lot more often, a little more exciting, but to an extent, almost even unfair, because once they throw there twice, they can't throw there anymore. So runners are going at the first motion.
They could go okay. So the rule is that they could pick off a third time.
Okay.
And if they get him out, then the runner's out.
But if he doesn't get him out, then he gets to go to second.
It's a balk.
It's a balk. Yeah.
And they go to the next base, which is fine. And you couple that with the larger bases too, it suddenly makes a guy
added like 4.5 inches.
Yeah, it suddenly makes a guy like Birdie, who was the National League stolen base champ last year, a lot more valuable. And but the league is clearly taking an approach that like we want more offense.
For sure.
Because pitching dominated for so long, and in a game where pitching dominates and then the game's already taking 3.5, 4 hours long, you're going to lose viewership. You're going to. It just, you can't. So picking up the offense and shortening up game times, I think that's great. I'm sure from a pitcher's perspective, they're like, fuck, what are we going to do here? But I mean, you're still seeing catchers throw guys out. Like stolen base numbers they've gone up a little bit in this time frame from last season, but it's nothing astronomical, something to write home about.
Well, actually, look, the accumulated, right? The first 100 attempts of stolen bases this season, 84 were successful. So they're stealing at 84% success rate. That's pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, a good catcher has like a 30% throwout rate anyway. Like,
right. No, I mean, it's not 100%, but yeah, it's creeped up. Like, it's definitely an advantage now.
Oh yeah, of course. And that's what they want. They want guys in scoring position. They want guys driving around. They want those 8-6 ball games instead of 2-1 pitchers duels. They want offense, which I encourage personally. Like, juice the baseballs. Let's get more home runs. Let's get more balls in the gap. Let's get more stolen bases. Because the issue with baseball, and me as baseball is my first love, more than soccer, more than football. Like, for the average fan, it can be a little unbearable. Like, it can be like, man, I'm sitting here, I'm watching a pitching duel, but to see everything happening so much, so quickly, and cutting out and this is the most important thing, cutting out all that dead time of the pitcher taking 5. Okay, I'm facing Aaron Judge now. Like, I need to get in the zone. I need to throw off his timing. I'm going to walk around the mound 6 times. The batter's going to step out. He's going to undo his batting gloves. The Nomar Garcia Parra, doing this 16,000 times. Yep. And, and then like a ball high and tight, I'm going to go take a lap around the plate. Is like, all right, we cut out all that bullshit, that stuff that we don't need to be doing. Okay, both pitcher and hitter have to be engaged with 8 seconds left. All right, man, we're moving. We're cutting out all that dead time. That's all for show. That's all these guys just being professional athletes, and like, we're just getting to baseball. We're getting guys swinging bats. We're seeing home runs. I mean, I think like before this last game against the Twins, I think like 7 of our first 11 runs came on home runs. Like, like that's good in a way. Like, from a viewer, that's awesome. People want to see home runs, and that's going to bring more people to the ballpark, and it's going to have more people watching at home.
I have a question for you, Brian. Talking about the new rules and the pitch clock and all that, Rob Manfred wouldn't confirm that they were keeping the pitch clock for the postseason. Do you think that there's a chance that we don't see the pitch clock in the postseason?
I think they were probably waiting to see what the reception was going to be during the regular season before committing to the playoffs. I think based off of the sample size we have now, I think that it'll probably stay around for the playoffs. I don't see how they could let playoff games go back to like a 3 hour, 3.5 hour event. I mean, unless they're, Major League Baseball's like, let's sell some more advertising, then maybe. But I think for the good of the game, I think Manfred was just waiting to see what the reception was going to be, because a lot of the baseball purists, before the season even started, they're like, oh, I hate this. I don't want to see this. They're ruining the game. But I haven't seen them as vocal in defense of the old rules now as they were before the season started. So,
And another thing, if there's a team that finds a lot of success, let's say, for example, stealing bases, and that's a big part of their games or their success this season, I can't imagine that they would all of a sudden switch the rules up too much in the postseason, where all of a sudden teams have to readjust to something that was maybe they were leaning on, small ball, for example. They have to, okay, we got to figure something else out. So, okay, yeah, I'm with you on that. What do you think, Callie?
I'm going to push back on that one a little bit. Viewership and we have to understand, the pitch clock isn't to enhance the game. The pitch clock is purely for the viewer. It's to 100%. Shorten the game. It's to shorten the game, to make it more watchable so more people stay tuned in for longer. Baseball's never had an issue with viewership for playoffs. It's never had an issue with viewership for the World Series. Playoff baseball is historically one of the most watched sporting events of the year, always. It's like up there with March Madness. It's up there with the NBA playoffs. It's up there with the NFL playoffs. The watchability is through the roof. Okay. And I think I think if it's up to me, divisional rounds, yeah, let's keep the pitch clock. But when we get to the
ALCS, NLCS,
take it off. World Series, take it off. There's no one to compete with. Everyone's watching anyway. And I mean, like the World Baseball Classic didn't have a pitch clock, and we were all zoned in.
But do you think that once a team kind of creates a way of playing, right? Because if a team plays small balls, right? So do you think that it would be fair to make them readjust once you get to a certain point in the playoffs? Because I can see why that would be a disadvantage. Like the Marlins, I feel like, I guess getting back to the Marlins, I feel like the Marlins haven't taken advantage of how much or how easier it is to steal bases now.
They tried against Pablo.
Against Pablo, right?
They tried a lot.
And Jazz got thrown out and injured.
Yeah.
And but the first series against the Mets, they didn't even attempt a stolen base. Like I'm not sure why they haven't been taking advantages, because there's teams that have just been running like crazy, and I'm like, what are the Marlins waiting for?
Well, in the games that Birdie started against the Twins, he swiped I want to say he swiped two. And I know Segura stole one too. We started running a little more. I don't know why in the first series we didn't. I can understand why. Like, okay, so from a coaching standpoint, like, you read the catchers pop times, and big leaguers, they're all catchers like 1.7, 1.8 guys. So a guy like Scherzer, for example, he's 1.1 to the plate. He's very quick. So 1.1 plus 1.7, you're at a 2.8. Okay, you need about 3. You need 2.9 to 3 to steal a bag. That's cutting it too close. That's
even if you cut off the 4 inches.
Yeah, I'm sure that the numbers changed a little bit there, but you know, if the timing's not there, you don't send them. And maybe I don't know how the rest of I don't have the timing down for the rest of the Mets staff. I know Pablo's a guy that's historically kind of slow to the plate, and I think that's why we ran on him. And then plus us just kind of having the book on him, we know how he moves, things like that. And that definitely changes. That familiarity helps with that too. But if the timing's not there, you're just not going to send guys.
But the thing with Pablo too that I thought was interesting, and I think the reason we saw them try him so much is they were it kind of seemed like to me it was almost like practicing, because they were watching the pitch clock, and when it got down to like a second or two, like those guys were getting ready to fly, and some of them were taking off, and you could see like Jazz took that huge lead, and then he started, and then he stopped, and then he went again. And if he would have just gone all the way through, he wouldn't have got hurt, and he would have swiped the bag. And I think that happened to, I think Arise tried that, and I think Birdie too tried to do the same thing, but they kept getting that huge jump. And it seems like they're testing out a strategy that they're not 100% comfortable with yet. And I think Pablo was the guy they wanted to try it against.
Yeah, and I think with that, it's what you're going to see. The teams that are most successful at stealing bases this year are going to be the ones that know how to play with the clock the best. It's almost like a quarterback in football, like hard counts with like 3 seconds left on the clock.
Snap.
Yeah, like you're almost trying to, and also when you're on, especially when you're on first, like you're trying to get the pitcher to jump a little bit. You're trying to draw that ball in. You're trying to draw that throwback. You know, there and also with the catcher too. Like you want to see what happens, and you want to test what they can do too. The Jazz one was weird. I think he just got in his head and he fucked up there. But we're gonna see guys that kind of try and play with the pitch clock, and then I think with a rise, it was meant to be a delayed steal, and he just did it poorly. And but the delayed steal is something that we've seen the Marlins do well in the past. So let's see if that's something we bring back.
Now that we bring up Jazz, the center field experiment, we all understood that it was going to be an adjustment period, right? We knew that there was going to be an adjustment period there. But Wendell is down. How long? Does anybody know how long he's down for?
He's on
15 day.
15 day IL right now.
Would you guys put Jazz back at shortstop?
Yes.
At least for the time being.
Yes.
And just move De La Cruz over to center.
Yes.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Brandon, let's go with you first. Why would you not do it?
I wouldn't do it because at this point, like, he's really had 2 series, and the spring was rough too. But in my mind, if you're gonna have your superstar and the guy you're building your team around, you don't want to move him without a larger track record. I think moving him now could damage his confidence, and in the position, I don't think you'd ever get him back in center field. And so if you really went into this year committing to him in center field, you knew that this was already going to be an issue. And let's be honest, our outfield is not great defensively anyway. So yeah, they're not great. There's no Gold Glovers out there.
I moved Jazz to short immediately without breathing a second breath, without blinking. Not because he's been bad at center field, but because I don't think you fill one hole by creating another. I think you put your team in I think you put with Wendell out, you put your second best shortstop. I think the second best shortstop on this team is Jazz Chisholm. And simple. I don't think it's going to hurt his confidence, and I think we have 2 series on the road that are against division opponents that we want to win. Especially we got the Mets for 3, the Phils for 3, and then we come home. I throw Jazz in there. De La Cruz is more than capable of playing center field. Sanchez, you keep Sanchez in left.
It was seamless yesterday once Jazz went out.
Yeah. Whoever you put in, I hate to say it, whoever you put in center is going to be better than Jazz Chisholm at center field. Plain and simple. I
don't know if it would be better, but it's definitely not going to be worse. You're not going to be losing anything.
So Jazz's first step in the outfield might be the worst I've seen of professional outfielders in my lifetime.
You got to take a step back.
Yeah, your first step is always back. He plays. The thing is he plays outfield like a shortstop.
Yeah, he's aggressive, takes a step forward.
Yeah, which in the infield you're taught to attack the baseball. You play up the baseball and you get your momentum towards your target and you throw the guy out. You can't do that in the outfield. Your first step, especially when the ball's hit in the air, you need to take a step back, analyze, and then react. And you need to do that very quickly. Every time the ball's hit, Jazz's first steps are forward. Jazz doesn't know how to and also playing center field, line drives hit right at you, surprisingly enough, are some of the hardest balls to play. Because you can't pick up spin, you can't pick up angle. You're just kind of reading you're gaining more information as it's coming to you. When the ball's hit up in the air, you have plenty of time to react. You have corner outfielders communicating with you, fence, track, whatever. Balls in between. You have the shortstop, second baseman. You have guys communicating. When the ball's hit right at you in center field, the ball's that the ball's not cutting left or right. So you're just reading a baseball that's coming to you, and you don't know if it's going to go past you, ahead of you. Things like that. And he really struggles with that first step. He really struggles with the first read. He doesn't read the progression of balls hit at him very well.
So if you had to So
He
if
needs
you,
a,
right, he does need work, and I think that's obvious. And if they don't bring him into shortstop, right, and even if they brought him in, they'd probably bring him back out center field once Wendell's ready. Do you think, or do you see any hope for him improving at center field?
yeah, and I think he improves because he's an athlete. You know,
Well, you
he's
know what? When he said, "I'm going to win a Gold Glove out there," I didn't doubt him. I was like, you know what? I believe in him.
yeah, and you
We might not have
have
been talking about this year. Let's be honest.
maybe 1 year, but you have your manager who played quite a bit of outfield. He was mainly like an infield utility guy, but a guy that knows the game. You have a very good outfielder as a bench coach in John Mabry, a guy who was a very good outfielder himself for the Cardinals for a long time, and a huge short stint with the Marlins too. Fun fact. It's going to take working with him. It's not something he was going to pick up over one spring. It wasn't. And what also hurt is that he was hurt.
Yeah.
He didn't come into the spring till it was almost over. So those are a lot of reps he missed out on. And I think, you keep playing him out there and you see how he progresses, but it's going to take daily work for him to learn how to read balls off the bat and stuff like that. And he's just not ready. I think you put him out there because you want him to get better, and there's nothing better than game reps. And quite frankly, we're not a team that's probably gonna be lifting a trophy at the end of the year. But I want him to get better. But if you have an opportunity, I think given the opportunity, and we're 3-4, we're second in the AL East. We can, with the next 2 series, we can hopefully extend that gap. If we can take 1 or 2 from the Mets, and we can win the
Take
Phillies
2
series,
from the Phillies. Right. If we could take
we're
2
gonna be all
from the
right.
Phillies and 1 from the
Yeah.
Mets, we'll be okay. If we go 3-3, we end up 6-7. I think we're good coming home
great
against
spot.
the D-backs. Right. That is a great spot.
Yeah.
That's more or less what you want to be. You want to be at the end of the year, you want to be hovering around 500, whether it be below or above, right around September, and then you want to make that late push where you could try to make that wild card. Like the Phillies did last year.
Yeah, the Marlins, you want to get as close to 500. You want to be fighting for that wild card spot. I think that's what the goal should be this year. And I think you take 1 from the Mets, you take 2 from the Phillies, you come back, and the Diamondbacks aren't very good. That's the team we can take 2 from.
I agree.
And then beyond
With who we
that,
have pitching, I think we should be aiming for the sweep against the D-backs, in my opinion.
yeah, because we have Sandy Friday night
It
against
should
the
be the
D-backs.
top of the 3, right?
Yeah, we have Sandy Friday against
Top
the D-backs.
3.
You have Luzardo Saturday, and then you get Cabrera on Sunday, and then we get back into the rotation against the Giants, which is horrifying because they absolutely stroke. But for April, we can. I think if you're looking at our schedule, because we have D-backs and then Giants at home, and then we go to Cleveland, to Atlanta. That one's going to be rough, a 4-game one, and then we have the Cubs back home.
I'm not even sure how the Cubs are doing, actually.
They're okay. They're the Cubs.
Yeah.
They have a couple guys who can hit, a couple guys who can throw, and basically shit everywhere else.
So 3-4 to start the season. We're really not going to go. We've been touching on these series as we've gone over the last half hour, but any positives or negatives to take away from the Mets and the Twins series? I guess I'll start real quick. The Mets series, I honestly thought we should have split 2-2, but it is what it is. First series, I wasn't going to go crazy about it. I think that they bounced back great against the Twins. It was a little worrisome when we lost that first game, but coming back strong with Sandy and Luzardo, I feel like with those 2 guys, if Cabrera could pick it up also, this team can pull exactly what the Indians, the Guardians, the Guardians did last year, and just lean on their pitching all season long. We have better hitting, obviously. We're getting on base. But like our boy Spazzy said, we're the MJs of leaving men on base. But last year, we weren't even getting on base. This year, we're getting on base. So this year, I see a lot more positive signs. Any positives or negatives that you guys take? I'll start with you, Brandon. First 2 series, positives and negatives.
So I think with the Mets series, my positive coming out of it is, the score line probably doesn't do us justice. I think we were competitive in all the games. And like Spazzy said, had we brought in the runners that we put in on base and in scoring position, we probably would have split the series, and we should have. I think the Twins series, the Monday game with Cueto, you kind of write that off. That was just you
I
know.
feel like that's a negative. That Cueto.
Yeah, but
that was rough.
over the course of the season, you're gonna have those games. You're gonna have one or two. Like we saw the Mets get pummeled the day before the Sunday game. They got pummeled by the Brewers, and so
But the
that's
Brewers
gonna
owned
happen
them.
every now and then. Yeah,
The
and
Brewers owned
then
them.
yeah, they did, which we love to see.
Yeah.
But I think Tuesday's win and Wednesday's win really show like what the team can do, and I think that's probably what we see game in and game out from the team is just strong pitching performances, and then back that up with solid innings of hitting. I don't know that we can string together whole games of solid hitting, but one or two innings is probably where we take advantage of some pitchers in the bullpen.
For me, the positives, pitching's there, man. Pitching's gonna carry us all year, straight up. Our rotation's very good, even with Cueto. Our bullpen's very good. I would put our pitching up with almost anyone in the league except maybe like Houston, because their rotation and bullpen are just stupid. But definitely one of the best pitching staffs in the league. I would say. I mean, Sandy throwing a complete game in with 100 pitches, 5 strikeouts. That's as efficient as you're gonna get in Major League Baseball. To negatives, hitting, we're just gonna have to live with the fact that the bottom half of the lineup is just not gonna produce offensively all that much. I think we're averaging close to like 10 strikeouts a game. If I think the last time I saw, we had 65 strikeouts through 5.5 games at a point. That's not good for those keeping score at home. That's very bad, actually. We're a team that's going to strike out a lot, unfortunately, because again, we just don't. I think top 4 or 5. If you're looking in the terms of Arise, Segura, Jazz, Solar, very good, reliable guys. Avi, you don't know what you're getting. He's been kind of all over the place. He's had some terrible at bats. But he's had a couple timely bombs too. And then bottom end guys like Birdie for our catchers. De La Cruz, Sanchez. They're just guys that aren't. Coop too is a guy we need to consider that's gonna swing. That's gonna swing it well. He's at least gonna put the ball in contact. He's a guy that hasn't struck out a lot. He's been hitting the ball hard. Gotta love that.
Well, and just to add to your point about the strikeouts, we're leading the league in strikeouts.
Yeah, it
we're
sounds
number
about right.
1. The Giants are number 2, 74. The Giants have 72, but they played one less game, so they're striking out at a higher rate than us.
So 74 through 7 games, we're averaging over 10 strikeouts a game. That's not good. Yep. That's bad. Mm-hmm. Luckily, our pitching staff is doing probably about the same, so that balances out a little bit. But that's not good. We can't. We're gonna strike out a lot, unfortunately. Maybe it gets better. That's why I think that's why I have some hope that if we're competitive come July, maybe we try and bring in a bat, man. Like, there are some guys that you can, or maybe there's someone in our system that turns it on, like Burdick turns it on and starts hitting well. Who knows? But those are my positives and negatives right now.
And I will tell you, we're last in the league in RBIs.
Makes sense.
We're not scoring, obviously. And average, we are 11th. Not too bad.
We're 11th in average. That's actually kind of surprising. Well, yeah, I guess.
My fault.
How many guys we left on base?
I was looking at that upside down. My fault. Not 11th. We're 20th. My fault.
Okay, I was gonna say that makes a little more sense. I was thinking because I guess we've had, because I was trying to think, like, I guess we've had a couple like 8 and 10 hit games. Maybe that makes sense, but like I don't know how you lead the league in strikeouts and also be 11th in average. Right. That seems a little disproportionate, but again, we're relying on home runs a lot, which is really exciting, but it's not sustainable. Unfortunately, Solar's not going to stay on this hot streak forever. He's going to go through slumps. Yeah. He's going to balance out. We'll have other guys go through hot streaks. We'll have other guys go through cold streaks, but you can't rely. What we're going to see in week 1 is not what we're going to see in September and October.
So I guess we could talk a little bit about the season expectations. I think we all agreed that we're hoping for a wild card run, right? To be in the hunt for the wild card. Cy Young, batting title. What are our hopes and expectations for certain either players or the whole team as a whole? I mean, obviously, for me, wild card chase. I hope Sandy gets another Cy Young. What are you guys hoping for?
Yeah, I think wild card run. I think another Cy Young for Sandy is reasonable and in expectations. I would love to say that I'd see like a Rise going for the batting title, but I think he's got stiffer competition, better pitching in the NL East than what he had with the Twins. So I don't know that I see that happening. But
Well,
it
I
would be
will
nice
tell
to
you.
see.
Sorry to cut you off real
No,
quick.
go ahead.
The change of schedule is great though, because instead of playing the ALE 76 times, we play them 52 times. It's a difference of
Yeah.
24 games, so that could help also.
And it
Go
helps
ahead, I'm
when we're
sorry.
in one of the best divisions in baseball too. That's
100%,
yeah.
because being
Yeah.
one of the worst teams in the best division is brutal. So this is a big positive. All right, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So maybe he can do it. But I do expect to see depending on his playing time, I'd like to see Birdie kind of retain his stolen base title, especially if we can figure out how to take advantage of the new pitch clock and stuff. But I think that, we'll see. It depends on his playing time, but I really do think it's just competing for the playoffs at this point is the goal. And, I would love for us to, like Callie said, be buyers in July and maybe either commit to Jazz in center field or shortstop and buy maybe a bat in one of those two positions.
Yeah, I think as a team, we need to be around 500 and fighting for a wild card spot. I think as a team, that's our expectation. That's our goal. That's what should be our goal, because we're not bad enough to just tank and only win 40 games this year, but we're good enough to win 80. I think we're a team that can win 80 games.
Yeah.
As far as individual awards, I think as long as Sandy's healthy, I think he has a shot. Plain and simple. He's top 5 pitcher in baseball right now, probably. So a couple things that I think we can keep an eye on. I think Luis Arraez, Silver Slugger for second base in the National League would be huge. You won Silver Slugger last year in the American League, won the batting title in the American League last year. I don't know if batting title is going to be a thing he wins this year, just given the lineup around him. But he's a guy that puts the ball in play. He's not going to strike out a lot. I think that's Silver Slugger is definitely attainable. I think probably most of our infield can be at least Gold Glove candidates. I think Fortes can be a guy that can behind the dish defensively.
He's looked good, man.
He's very good defensively. He's one of the better defensive catches we've had in a while down here, which is really encouraging. And then Solar maybe makes a run at a home run title chase. Maybe he's smoking baseballs. Well, one thing I'll give Solar, man, when he connects, that dude connects, bro. Like he hits baseballs very hard. He's seeing beach balls right now, and of course that's not going to be sustainable. It's gonna flatten out. But if you can maintain like a good enough OPS or OBPS or something like that, like I think this is a guy that can compete for like leading the league and at least the National League, maybe in home
and speaking of homers, in the league, top 6 teams that have given up home runs are inside the top 6. 3 of them are our next 3 opponents. We got the D-backs, the Mets, and the Phillies. The Mets have given up 13 already. The D-backs have given up 13, and the Phillies have given up 10. So Solar might get one somewhere at some point there.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to some hitter-friendly parks in Citi Field, and then
Citi Field's big.
Citi Field, I mean, I feel like a lot of balls fly out of there. But Citizens Bank Park is very, very hitter-friendly.
Oh yeah.
And then we come back home, and of course we're in a bit of a, well, I think I think the corners are as good as you can ask for, but the gaps in dead center is a bit of a poke at Marlins Park. But we've seen Solar do it already, man. And then we go, and then what is it? We go to Cleveland. That's very hitter friendly, and then the new Turner Field, Truist Field is whatever, and then the Cubs come here. So a couple hitter friendly parks that we're going to that I think we can hit home runs. And what's great is that our staff isn't giving up a lot of home runs. From what I remember, Tommy Pham hit one, Pete Alonso hit one.
We've actually given up 7. Which I don't remember 7, but we've given up 7 home runs.
I remember 2 in the Mets series. We gave up 5. We gave up 5.
Well, Cueto gave up 2.
Oh right, Cueto.
So there's 2 of them, and then
Yeah, we're giving up 7 total.
Lindgren didn't give up any.
Rogers, Puck gave up 1.
Oh, Puck. Yeah,
No,
Marty.
Puck gave that one up. That's
Puck,
right.
Puck gave
He
one
did
up.
that on purpose. He just wanted to save. I'm convinced.
No. Well, Puck.
He got it.
He was already in the. It was a 2-0 game. Puck already had the save there, but Pete Alonso was his teammate at University of Florida. So
he just
he served
lofted
one
it.
up. It was
Okay.
first pitch too, man. Maybe he told him like, "Hey, man, if I face you, you're getting 1," and that's it. And Pete Alonso did what Pete Alonso does because that guy's
Hey, he said,
absolutely
"Puck
amazing.
All right, so we're talking about stadiums. We've all been to the stadium, right? I hadn't been there in a couple of years. What are you feeling about the stadium when you went out there? Obviously, for the Mets series, Mets heavy.
Yeah, I mean,
How are you feeling? How you feeling though about the overall experience? I was loving that 305 menu.
The 305 menu is they've had it for a couple years now. I'm a huge fan of it. So for those of you that don't know, if you haven't been to the stadium, they have the 305 menu. So they have items on the menu that are for $3 and items for $5. So the $3 items are like a pretzel, a hot dog, a bottle of water, I think a soda also, like not in a souvenir cup or anything. And then the $5 is like
the draft beer.
The draft beer. So you can get
you can get nachos for $3 too.
Yeah, you can, but you can get imagine like you can get a hot dog and a beer for $8 in a stadium.
Yeah,
like come on, man, like that's awesome. I will say,
at Drive Pink, you're paying $30 for that.
You're like giving your social security number or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I will say something that I had for the first time at Marlins Park. I still call it Marlins Park. It's gonna be Marlins Park for me. I'm not calling it Lone Depot. And I sat in left field when I went to the Friday game for the Mets, and they had an arepa stand that I hadn't seen before. And I've been to that stadium 100 times. A little arepa stadium, and it's like you always know when you see it. It's like a couple of the abuelitas working there and stuff like that. I'm like, let me see. I tried it, and quite frankly, it was a very good arepa, and not just like stadium quality, just like in general quality. It was very good. Like I saw them like get the arepa and fill it with meat and put the cheese and the sauce. I'm like, hey girl, all right, pop off, queen. And I had it, and it was it was really good, man. I mean, it was like $8 too. It wasn't like super expensive or anything like that. But as far as food goes, like some of the like Miami's Best Pizza is still there. I think Pincho Factory is still there.
Pincho Factory is still there.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of new ones and stuff like that. But as far as like
all the things they're doing, it's like crazy. The Taco Tuesdays, the 4 for 44,
the 4 for 44 deal is awesome.
Then they've got on select Saturdays, they're doing like a beer sampling or something before the games. They've got like brunches before some of the Sunday afternoon games, which are like I looked at
Isla Canarias is out there also.
Yeah, the OGs. I saw that they're doing like burger and beer Fridays too. Oh, there you go. Oh my god, I need to find Isla Canaria when I'm out there.
That's it. It was right by your section actually, right before I
was
went.
Gonna say that looks like the picture you sent us, Cali.
Yeah,
right.
Oh man,
it was right above his section, and those croquetas were fire, and it was a great because I ate there while watching the game from dead center field, and
next time I go there,
awesome view. No matter where you go in the stadium, it's a beautiful view. You can eat and walk around all over the place. You get Dippin' Dots. You get the helmet.
The cup.
Everybody loves these little helmets, man. Yeah, I love these little things. So it's a great experience, man. I hope more people start making it out there.
One thing I'll give them the stadium experience for Marlins games is fantastic. Like, and especially like when it gets to the summer, the roof is closed. It's 72 degrees in there, so it's very comfortable. There's not a bad seat in the house. Nope. Tickets are dirt cheap if you go through certain apps, and they're not paying us, so I'm not going to say their name. But there's certain apps that you can go on that tickets are dirt cheap. You can sit anywhere because, quite frankly, they're not checking tickets. They just want people at the baseball game. The concessions are great. The team store is like not expensive. Like it's not like I've seen it like other franchises.
Any other stadium.
Yeah, like I got a fitted hat for $35, man. Like I'm not getting that anymore. I'm barely getting that on the internet. Like.
Because they're selling it at retail price. When you go to other stadiums, you're paying retail price, and then you're basically paying hey, you bought it at the stadium
tax.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the parking garage for me, the game I went to was a bit of a nightmare, but it's my fault because of where I parked.
Okay. I got up pretty easy.
I'm assuming responsibility for that one, but Yeah, man. As far as stadium goes, I think like it's tough to beat. Like there's, you can sit anywhere. You have a great view. Food's great. I'm so mad at Isla Canarias because those are arguably the best croquetas in Miami-Dade County.
And they're huge.
And they're massive too, and I can't
Yeah.
eat that much because of my surgery. But if I go with my
So
wife,
even better. So you'll be satisfied
them.
quickly.
Yeah.
Share.
Yeah.
All right. So coming to an end now, but I know that my man Callie here had a little trivia lined up for us.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
Ooh.
let's get a little Marlins trivia going before we head out of here.
All right. So it's not just Marlins trivia. It's also I have 3 Marlins trivia questions and 3 Major League Baseball, just history trivia questions. What I'm planning.
If you're watching on YouTube, pause the video. If you're on audio, pause the audio. Try to answer the question before Callie delivers the answer. Go ahead.
All right. So my goal is I'm not going to participate because I'm obviously like the one reading the trivia questions, but
Makes sense.
I want to keep score throughout the entire season and see who does the best by the end of it. So
I'm horrible at trivia, so I'm just putting that out there.
So am I. So at least we'll both be ahead of Spazzy.
Well, we'll go as we go. And so for the Marlins trivia, it being the 30-year anniversary of the club's inception, all 3 questions have to do with the first year of the club, 1990.
Okay.
All right. So first question, first ever Battered Marlins Fans trivia question. Marlins played their first game on April 5th, 1993 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Who was the pitcher they faced? Hint, there's arguments that he should be a Hall of Famer. And he has kind of a cool name.
Los Angeles.
His first name would make some young men giggle, I'll say that.
1993. Oh, I don't think I'm going to get this. 1993
Dodger.
LA Dodgers.
He was very good. He was a very good pitcher.
No, man, I'm not going to get this one.
I don't
know. I was hoping that you were going to ask who their opponent was.
Oh, no, that's too easy.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
The answer is Oral Hershiser.
Oral.
That's why
Okay.
young man giggle.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right. So next question. This one should be a little easier. Who hit the first home run for the Marlins ever? And bonus point if you can correctly guess what team it was against.
Oh shit.
This was all right, guys.
Should I just go with a wild guess here and just say Jeff Conine?
It was not Conine. It's a good guess.
I'm gonna go Charles Johnson. I know it's not right.
No, Charles Johnson wasn't on the team. Wasn't even on the team yet.
He's a draft pick.
He was the first draft pick.
Yeah, he wasn't in the big league club though. The answer is another catcher. Does that help if I say catcher? Benito Santiago.
Jeez.
I would never.
Wow, I haven't heard that name in forever.
It's been 30 years, man.
Ooh.
So, fun fact: I actually coached against his son. We beat them to go to a state championship. Benito Santiago Jr. was a catcher. The pitcher was Tuki Toussaint, who's currently in the Guardians organization.
Man, 93. I was 7 years old when all these things were going on. I'm gonna have a hard time with this one. What's number 3?
It was 4.
Hold on. So it was Benito Santiago. He hit it against the Giants off of Trevor Wilson. It was a 2-run bomb to left center to tie the game 3-3. The Giants ended up walking it off in the 11th inning with a Darren Lewis base knock to center off of Joe Klink, which scored Willie McGee from second. It was also the first time the Marlins got walked off against ever. And then finally, this one's actually kind of monumental in terms of how the Marlins franchise played out. So,
oh boy,
we acquired 24-year. I almost read the answer. First trade in Marlins history, and I'll give you a hint. It was with the Padres. If that helps with who we sent over.
If you would have said the
who
first
we
draft,
or who we picked, or who we got back.
I'm sorry.
Is the question who we traded away or who we got back?
You get a point for both. It was with the Padres.
If you would have said first draft pick ever, I would have gotten that one.
You need to think like a legendary Padres player.
Oh,
who we gave up.
It's not Tony Gwynn.
No.
No.
Padres lifer.
Shoot, I see his face.
Well, you got me. I'm never gonna get this one.
I'll tell you this: we gave up a pitcher. legendary Padre, record setter.
Oh
All right.
man,
Good luck, Brenton, because I don't got it.
I can see his face, but I'm so bad with names.
We traded Trevor Hoffman to the Padres for.
Wait. Trevor Hoffman was a Marlin?
Yes. I knew that one too.
I did not know that.
On June 24th, 1993, we acquired 24-year-old All-Star Gary Sheffield.
I was gonna say Gary Sheffield, but I was like, no, 93 is way too early.
I thought it was going to be him too, and then I was like, no.
We acquired Gary Sheffield and left-handed pitcher Rich Rodriguez from the Padres for Trevor Hoffman and some minor leaguers that never amounted to anything.
Oh man, I was like Gary Sheffield. Like, no, 93 is way too early for Gary Sheffield.
Yeah. That was our first in-season trade, I should say. Before the season, we traded one of our best young prospects ever, Adrian Gonzalez, who might be a Hall of Fame first baseman. We traded him away to the Padres. So this is now we're transitioning to baseball history trivia. This one's actually right up your alley here, Danny.
Uh-oh.
Who was the first player to have his number retired?
Ever?
Jackie Robinson, right?
Nope.
Oh,
no. What was it? Ted Williams?
No, pinstripes, baby. Big pinstripes.
Babe Ruth.
It wasn't Babe Ruth.
No.
Not Babe Ruth.
It wasn't Babe Ruth. First player to ever have his number retired.
Think Babe Ruth era.
Lou Gehrig.
It was Lou Gehrig.
Yeah.
Lou Gehrig had number 4 retired on July 4th, 1939.
Yeah, that's when he gave the speech.
Yep.
Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of this earth.
Yep.
I should have had that one. Yep.
All right. Next baseball trivia question. Who was the only pitcher to record both 200 wins and 150 saves in their career? Hint, division opponent.
John Smoltz.
Yes, it was John Smoltz.
Smoltzy.
I
love John Smoltz.
2001, he had Tommy John, and it's not like today that you come back better with Tommy John. He converted to a reliever and went on to save 150 in his career. An absolute Marlins killer.
Hey, there you go, Brent.
I was so glad to see him go to the Red Sox.
All right, so tied 1-1 right now because Danny, I gave you the Lou Gehrig one. All right, the last one. This one's a fun one. At least for me, who's a baseball nerd. Doc Ellis threw a no-hitter on June 12th, 1970. Why is that significant? Doc Ellis. Fun fact.
I don't even know who Doc Ellis is.
He was a pitcher for the Pirates.
Doc Ellis doesn't ring a bell.
What day was it on?
It was June 12th, 1970. The date has nothing to do with it. I'm just giving you a time frame, but it's significant. There's a very specific reason why it was a significant achievement for him to throw a no-hitter on that day.
But the day has nothing to do with it.
But the date itself has nothing to do with it. The answer is he was high as a kite on LSD.
Oh.
There's actually
who's going to get that?
So he was snow globing it.
It was snow globe. I do not do LSD for what it's worth, listeners, but that's an inside joke for those who know. So yeah, he was high on LSD. There's actually a documentary on. I want to say it's on Netflix, but it's a very famous story of, he threw a no hitter high on LSD. So,
oof. No,
all right, well,
that's wild.
1-1 split for our first trivia. Not bad. I'm gonna make adjustments as we go because I'm a little too much baseball nerd for you guys.
I think if we go this trivia route, you might have to be on the other end of these questions to test out your knowledge.
We should rotate. We could every rotate. Episode. Let's do it.
We could rotate, and I'll keep
a different person take the trivia, and then
that's fair. I like that.
Go from there.
Because I think Callie will kill us if he keeps asking us these Doc Ellis questions. All right, well,
that's fair.
Coming to an end. For those of you listening, if you're still listening an hour in, we appreciate you giving us the time. This was episode 1. Callie, Brenton, anything else that you would like to tell the people before we head out?
It's usually the hope that kills you, but have a little faith. I think this year won't be as bad as you think.
I agree.
Yeah,
Brenton?
There's a lot of good to hope for from this team. And, if you can make it out to the ballpark, especially when Sandy's on the mound, because
For
you
sure.
never know how often you're going to get to see a pitcher of that caliber day in and day out. So let's appreciate who we have on the field, and let's just cheer on the fish.
And I hate to be that guy, man.
Don't say
Sandy.
it. Don't say it.
I'm just saying, bro. I've been a Marlins fan for 30 fucking years. I've seen this movie before, bro. Okay, I know how this ends. Unfortunately, I just hope he really, really likes Miami. That's all I'm saying. I hope he really enjoys living here.
Listen, you almost jinxed us yesterday when you said if I have to see another 1-0 game,
I
swear to
know,
God.
and then almost
blew it.
As soon as I tweeted that, fuck me, bro. Okay.
Yeah. I would have taken the 1-0 right after you hit it. I was like, you see, I would have taken the 1-0.
Yep.
But it worked out anyway.
I actually had a couple people from Marlins.
Up.
I had a couple people from Marlins Twitter come at me for that one, so I guess it was well earned.
As always, we appreciate you, and we're ready to get hurt again.
Yeah.
Always, baby.